Thank you so much for coming. Vicki is a plant-based culinary instructor. She's a certified personal chef, a master certified vegan lifestyle coach, and the author of the Plant-Based for Life Cookbook, deliciously simple recipes to nourish, comfort, energize, and renew, plus everyday easy and feel great desserts. Vicki's focus is always on making eating healthy and higher case easy. She is a forks over knives, plant-based certified and trained in dietary therapy for reversing common diseases. Vicki earned a certificate in plant-based nutrition through the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. And I was going to go to their retreat in October, by the way, and is trained in nutrition for a healthy heart. She holds certificates in wellness counseling through Cornell University and culinary coaching through Harvard Medical School and the Institute of Lifestyle Medicine. Vicki teaches whole food, plant-based cooking classes to groups of all sizes and provides one-on-one coaching to clients across the nation, helping them prevent and reverse health challenges and chronic conditions. Vicki's popular Ann Arbor Vegan Kitchen blog has readers from over 90 countries around the world. So you can stay connected with Vicki at AnnArborVeganKitchen.com. And I'm going to put that in the chat. And it is yours. I'm handing it over.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. It is an absolute pleasure to be with you all today. And I'm so excited to have a chance to share these easy recipes with you. The theme for the day is using more plants in our culinary experience throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the year. And so today I'm going to be showing you 3 simple recipes, basically things you can use for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that don't take a lot of cooking and will allow you to kind of expand how many plants you add into your meals per day. And we know, all of us know, that it's a good idea to eat more fruits and vegetables and beans. And for many people, that they want to add a little bit more nuts and things like that to their whole grains and so forth. This is the basis of a plant-based diet. And sometimes people will ask me the question about the difference between vegan and plant-based. And, I think the word vegan is something that a lot of people understand means not eating animal products. But I think the words plant-based are a little bit more descriptive because it talks more about what we do include in our diet rather than what we do not include. And so eating more fruits and vegetables, more plant-based foods in our day is just a good idea. And we all know that, that'll provide more opportunity to get fiber into our diet, which helps our digestion. It actually helps our microbiome. It helps reverse risks for all kinds of chronic illnesses that include heart disease, many kinds of cancer, depression, Alzheimer's, all kinds of things seem to point to the same answer: more plant foods, the better. And so we're going to start with a very, very easy breakfast that is called blueberry mango overnight oats. And many of you may have done overnight oats in your own kitchen, or maybe you've heard about it. Maybe you wonder what it's, how easy it might be or difficult to put together. And I'm going to just demonstrate for you how easy it can be to put together a couple of jars of overnight oats. And you can kind of think of this recipe as a template to subtract or add any of your favorites to this. I like that combination of blueberry and mango because I think that flavors are delicious. It's nice and sweet and juicy. And I love the colors as we kind of see the juices of frozen fruits drip down into the oats below it. I just love that combination. But again, you can kind of swap out any other fruits you like, or it could be fresh, it could be frozen. And what I'm going to show you today is just the simplest version. So I have a very simple funnel here. You don't need a funnel. In fact, you don't even need these jars that have the tops on them. If you don't have these jars, this is a 1 cup jar that is made by Ball, the mason jar company. But if you don't have these, you can actually just use a drinking glass that you might have on hand, or like a custard cup or any other kind of container that matches about the size of what you would eat for breakfast, and just put a plastic wrap over the top of it. But I like to use these jars because they're really nice and handy, and you can stack them if you want to in the refrigerator. And you can actually make enough for the whole week. This will last several days. I'm going to do 2 today just so you can kind of see how you might line it up for the number of people in your family, or for your number of servings that you may want to have in your, for your breakfast. Another nice thing about this is it's very portable. So if you want to take your breakfast on a hurried morning with you, stick it into your lunchbox or bring it with you in the car to have on a break, you can do that. Certainly, if we could take the time to have breakfast at home, it might feel a little more relaxed, but many of us have rushed mornings, and sometimes we don't have time for that. So this is one of those nice ways you can take care of yourself throughout the day by starting with a nice healthy breakfast. And so we're starting with 1/3 of a cup approximately of oats. And this is completely flexible. So if you like to have more oats or less oats, more or less fruit, you can completely change this to be your own favorite. But I'm filling it with about that amount, approximately 1/3 of a cup. And then I'm adding some cinnamon to it, about half a teaspoon at this point. And what I like about the cinnamon, it could also be apple pie spice or pumpkin pie spice. Really, any flavors that you like would work great here. But cinnamon and its accompanying type of flavors are very anti-inflammatory and great for those of us who may have to be thinking about our blood sugar, our blood glucose. And this is a great way to help prevent or reverse blood sugar issues. So it will also keep your blood sugar nice and even throughout the morning as you wait for the lunchtime as well. So we've got here just our cinnamon and our oats to start with. I'm adding to this a plant-based milk. You could use any kind you want. I'm using a vanilla unsweetened almond milk. And this is just something I like. And what I'm doing is just pouring up to approximately the level of the oats. And again, if you like it more wet, your oats to be softer, you could add more or less. You could, if you want it to be drier. And I'm filling it just to the point that the oats are matching. And then now I'm going to just stuff it full of fruit. I bought some frozen fruit, and I love frozen fruit for a couple of reasons. It's usually a nice bargain because it's already, because it was picked at the time that it was abundant. And so it tends to be, compared to buying fresh, something that you can always have handy. You don't have to worry about it spoiling. It's already been washed and already prepped. And so for me, it's a fabulous, I just love that as a convenience. So I put in my recipe about 1/3 of a cup, but really I'm just going to kind of eyeball it to get about halfway full with the remaining space in my jars. And I love that there's some extra juices in here. Again, this was frozen, and you could take it straight out of the freezer and put it right in here, and I often do. But today I just did it a little bit ahead of time so that I'd be able to kind of show you how full we can stuff it. When it's a little bit softer, you can get a little bit more fruit in here. So I've got these pieces of mango, and if you wanted to, and this is a very nice idea, a lot of times I'll do this, if you wanted to do something besides just the fruit, you can also add to this some dried fruit, raisins, dried cranberries, cut up dates, or any other kind of fruit you like, and some nuts. So you could add a couple of walnuts or a little bit of pecans or almonds, whatever you might like.
Excuse me, Vicki, what type of oats do you use? This is a question in the chat.
Great question. And then I use whole oats, rolled oats, like just the old-fashioned rolled oats, Quaker or any other kind of brand that you like. And but you can use an instant oat if that's what you have on hand. I like the texture of this chewier, bigger whole grain. So that's what I use. But either will work. Any kind of grain that, any kind of oatmeal cut that you like. Some people actually use steel cut. For me, that sounds just a little bit too crunchy. So I like this because it almost kind of mimics a cooked oatmeal without going to the trouble. Once it's sitting, it'll all get nice and soft. So that was a great question. So we've got our 2 jars, and you could very easily line up, 6 of them and 8 of them, do whatever you might want for your family this week. You could switch it up and do cherries, frozen cherries, or mixed berries, or fresh apples, whatever you want. Now, what I'll do is stuff this into the refrigerator. I'm going to put the top on, and when it's time to serve, this is completely up to you if you want to just eat it out of the jar, kind of stir it up, or what I do is I'll pour it into a bowl tomorrow, and I will warm it just slightly. Now, on a hot day, if it's 80 degrees out, I might prefer it cold. But on a day where it's not super hot, I might want to warm it up just a little bit to take the edge off of the cool refrigerated temperature. And then I like to cut on top of it a sliced banana. So that's, again, optional, but I just like the sweetness that it adds, and just something, a little bit more room temperature added to it. So that, again, is kind of up to you. And again, you could sprinkle it with nuts, that fresh banana that's sliced, and our first dish is done. This is how you can start your day with overnight oats, and your whole family can enjoy this. So this is one of my favorite go-tos. It's also really portable if you're going on a car trip or camping, anything like that. So this is a very nice way to have a portable, very healthy breakfast where you can control all the ingredients in here. So that's our first one. And now I'm just going to move these ingredients out of the way so we can move on to how you can have an easy plant-based lunch. And so I'm just moving aside here our ingredients to make room for our lunchtime recipe. And what we're going to make for lunch is a very easy main dish salad. And again, you can kind of think of this recipe as sort of a template that you can add or subtract any ingredients to this that are your favorites. So we're going to start with making a large salad. And remember that all of the ingredients I'm using are just exactly what, use whatever your favorites are. If you don't want to make a salad from scratch, you can buy one from the salad bar, or you could buy those bagged salads that are already mixed. Completely up to you, whatever you like. So I'm going to show you what I like to do. This is kind of a standard in my kitchen, and it's because I like to take shortcuts. I won't say I'm lazy. I will say that I am efficient. And so, but I do like to have a shortcut as much as anybody, because I have a busy schedule just like you do. And so if there's a way that I can find some fresh ingredients that don't require a lot of prep, they might be washed ahead, I love that. So I'm just going to grab here a cutting board, and this is how easy I like to make a quick salad. So I buy some this is baby spinach. It could be a mixed collard greens or baby kale or arugula, any kind of vegetable, any kind of green that you like. But I often buy spinach. I just find that it's so easy to add to a salad because it is pretty mild, and yet it has all the benefits of these nice dark greens. So I give them a rough chop. You don't have to. They're ready to eat just by pouring them right into the bowl. But I find that I like the mouthfeel on a fork when the greens are just a little bit more bite-sized. So I'm just giving them, as I say, a rough chop. I'm going to take 2 handfuls of this because I'm making, as you can see, a big salad that will be for more than one meal, or it could be, again, depending on the size of your appetite, if this is a main dish or a side dish. But I'm just going to add a couple handfuls of these dark greens, our spinach, and to store this, just so you know, in case you sometimes have this problem like I do, to keep this fresh for several days, I will take a paper towel and put it on the top of these greens, seal it back up, and store it face side down on that paper towel, which helps to absorb the moisture and any condensation and keep it fresh a little bit longer. So that's what I'll do before I refrigerate that again. And then my next thing I'm adding is lettuce. And this can be any kind of lettuce you like. But again, I try to buy this already washed. Again, it's just because sometimes it makes the difference between eating healthy and not, to find some things that give you a little bit of shortcut. So I have here some romaine hearts. I like that crunchier lettuce. My husband really likes iceberg lettuce. So, you know, any kind you like, there's no right or wrong on that. These are romaine hearts. And again, I'm just giving it a rough chop. And we're just adding that to our pile of greens. And then on top of that, anything goes. So I've got some radicchio, which you may have heard of, or maybe you've had this. This is a red lettuce that has just a slightly bitter flavor to it, but I find it really tender and a lovely lovely contrast to the colors of the green. You could also use instead or along with it a little bit of shredded red cabbage. It provides a little crunch, a little contrasting color. And then I'm adding shredded organic carrots. This doesn't have to be organic, of course, it's just kind of my go-to. I like to, when I can find them, and if they look fresh, I use this shredded carrots because it just is a quick way to add another level, some vitamin A in our carrots, again, more fiber. And then I've got some cucumbers that I sliced up. And so we'll add a little bit of that on top. And now we've got our salad. So to this now, one last thing, and this is some microgreens. If you are able to find fresh microgreens near you, I think they're a great addition. They have add a little bit of extra texture. But what I like about them in particular is that they add so much nutrition. These little microgreens, these are broccoli microgreens, have all in their little tiny sprouts, all the nutrients of a big head of broccoli, all condensed in here because this is about to grow into something big. And so it's just chock full of nutrients. And so I have heard that it has like 100 times, could be 10 times, I'm not sure of the math, I forget, and I apologize, the nutrients of broccoli in these little broccoli, the antioxidants in real broccoli, the large grown up mature broccoli. So we've got our beautiful salad all ready to enjoy. And what I'm going to do with this salad now, and then we'll make the dressing in just a moment, is I'm going to take some salad and I'm going to put it into a bowl, and then we'll make our dressing. But before I do, I'm going to turn this into a little heartier dish than it is right now by adding a few extra ingredients. So we've got our base of a salad, and the rest I'm going to store in a refrigerator. I like to stuff these into mason jars because it allows me to pack it in nice and solid, our leftovers, leaving as much full of greens and as little air as possible in there. And that allows it to become, again, to stay fresh for several days, up to a week sometimes. But to this now, in order to make this more of a meal, I'm going to add some more stuff. So this is, again, kind of whatever you like on top. It could be roasted vegetables, tempeh, whatever you like. I've got some beans, some black beans. I added a little hot sauce to it because I like a little extra flavor on here. So now that I've got some beans on here, it's becoming more of a meal, right? Would we all agree? I also have some quinoa. So I'm adding a little quinoa, which is a beautiful grain, very quickly cooked, and it has very high protein. So now we've added two sources of high protein, our beans and our quinoa, and that's going to help us stay nice and full and satisfied until, the end of the day. And so now I'm adding some corn, and that just gives it a little bit of, sweetness and texture along with the beans and the quinoa. And just to top it off for fun, you don't have to do this, but I have a little bit of pistachios. So I'm adding just a little bit of pistachios to the top. And that's our salad ready to add our beautiful dressing to. So we'll go into our dressing next. And here we go. You're going to make a homemade plant-based ranch dressing. So this is one of my favorites. I actually make this pretty much every week. Sometimes I vary it by adding a different flavor of vinegar or some fresh herbs, but this is a go-to. I use this recipe as a base week after week, and it's really super easy. So what we're going to put into our blender jar here is a cup of cashews. This is raw cashews. Sometimes people ask, can you use roasted? No, for this, you would really want to use the raw because it's going to become very creamy. And the raw has a different texture than the roasted, which become more crunchy. So we want this. And if you don't have a high-powered blender like this is a Vitamix, if you don't have something like that, it's a good idea to soak these for a while before you put them into this recipe. But if you have a Vitamix or something like this, then you can put them directly in here. And then we're adding to this some soy milk and some water. I'm using soy milk. You don't have to use soy milk. It can be any kind of plant-based milk you like. I've added my water here already just to make it easy to show you we're adding our liquid. I'm also adding a little salt. And I'm adding some brown mustard. It could be like a Dijon mustard. I'm just using something called spicy brown. And I'm just going to eyeball this, but it's about 2 teaspoons of a brown mustard. There we go. And then we're going to add a little bit of vinegar. And you can add as little or as much as you like. I've got a nice vinegar here. I'm adding just, again, kind of a splash. And then we're also adding to this some lemon juice. We've got 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. So we have our cashews, our milk, our water, our lemon juice, mustard, vinegar, and salt. That's everything. It's all in here. Now we're going to blend it. And this is so fast to blend that it's kind of as fast as getting one out of the refrigerator almost. So I'm going to make a little bit of noise here for a minute as we make this nice and creamy.
Vicki, I'm not sure if you saw the comments about your countertops.
I didn't see any comments. No, I
They
can't
are,
read anything.
yeah, they adore them. They said they like it.
Oh, good. So we've got our dressing already. And this, again, you can kind of store in any container you like in the refrigerator. We're going to use a little bit today over our salad. If you were taking this to work, you could put this salad into into your whatever you're bringing lunch in, and you could put the dressing on the bottom so that it doesn't make your whole salad wet until you're ready to have it for lunch, or you can put your salad dressing into a different container and pour it over at the end. Again, this is up to you how much you might like. I'm just going to scoop a little bit on the top and show you what this looks like. And we've got our delicious main dish salad for lunch. And now we're ready to make our quick dinner. If there's any questions so far, let me know, Rhonda. I'm going to move these aside as we make room for our dinner dish. So we've got all this nice food all ready for us. We've got our overnight oats, our salad, our dressing, and we've got now time to make dinner. And what I like about this dinner recipe that I'm going to show you is it's a really hearty comfort food. I use this recipe again over and over. These are on repeat in my kitchen all the time. And I make these almost every week. Sometimes I make a variation of it, but it's a pasta dish, but it's a healthy pasta dish. And we all love comfort foods. And especially at the end of the day, many of us are just looking for something that we can just really relax and enjoy. And this is one of those recipes that I look forward to. We were traveling about a week ago, and this was one of the dishes that I knew when I came back home, I wanted to make it right away because although it's fun to travel, I was looking forward to eating my own healthy food again. And this was one of those comfort foods that I was looking forward to. So here we go. I'm going to show you how we put together a healthy mac and cheese. And of course, this is plant-based, so it's not real cheese. It's really a creamy pasta sauce. And so what I love about this recipe is it's super fast, among other things. The sauce actually freezes really well if you have extra. We usually go through it during the week, but if you happen to have extra, It's easy to freeze. If you have leftover chili that you want to add to it, that's delicious in this sauce. If you want to add a little barbecue to it and turn it into a kind of a barbecue mac and cheese, all of these are great options. But so here we go. We're going to make ourselves our healthy mac and cheese sauce. So into a blender, again, I'm using a large container for this. We're going to start with 1 onion. And I'm going to tell you that I prepared some hot pasta before we went live to just now. So I've got some warm pasta set aside. But if I didn't already have my pasta ready, I would be telling you to go ahead and put your water on to boil to make your pasta. I'm using a whole wheat pasta. It's my favorite, but my family members like white pasta, so we usually have a combination on hand. So whatever you like. I know some people are gluten-free, so they prefer to try like a chickpea pasta or lentil pasta or some other kind. Whatever you like, any kind of pasta works, or no pasta, like doing it over zoodles or over potatoes. Any of those things are great options. So we'll concentrate on the sauce, and then I'll show you how we put it all together. So we're going to start with, again, if you'd have your water boiling, I make this little game for myself that I can make the sauce in the time it takes before my pasta is done. And that's how fast this comes together. So we're going to take an onion and saute that. So that would be what I would be doing next. But I did that just ahead to make sure I was ready for you. So we've got a sauteed onion in a pan. And I'm going to start by putting this sauteed onion into my blender. So we've got this golden, beautiful caramelized onions, and that's our base for our sauce. We'll pour the rest of this in. And we'll set aside our pan. We'll get our other ingredients. And again, if you could imagine that we were boiling water for our pasta, the longest part of this process is while that water boils, I'd be sauteing an onion. So now we've got our onion in our container. To this, we're going to add some cashews. Again, these are raw cashews, so they have not been roasted yet. And now we will add our liquids. So we've got a cup of a plant-based milk. Again, I'm using soy milk. I like to use soy milk for a couple of reasons. One is that it's really healthy, and I know some people have different feelings about it, but for me, I love it. I love that there's extra protein in it, and it's really good for women after menopause. We're also adding some water. So I've got half a cup of water plus 2 tablespoons. And then I'm adding a roasted red pepper. You could roast your own red pepper, take a red pepper and add it to your onion, but I'm using a shortcut here, and that's a jarred roasted red pepper. I buy a jar that has no sugar or oil added, just again, to be kind of pure, but you can buy any kind that you want, or just roast your own, or just saute it along with your onion. So we've got in here now our onion, cashews, milk, water, and roasted red peppers. Now I'm adding nutritional yeast. This is kind of an optional ingredient. You don't have to, but again, this has a lot of nice vitamin B12 and adds kind of a little savory flavor to our dish. We're also adding some lemon juice. We've got 2 tablespoons. We're adding a little bit of mustard. This is just a plain yellow mustard. I like a little bit extra. 2 teaspoons of salt to this sauce. If you don't use a lot of salt, you could leave that out or change that to be the taste that matches your palate. And then I'm adding, for a little bite, just a dash of cayenne pepper. And that's everything. Our sauce is ready to blend. So again, I'm going to make a little bit of noise here for a moment. I'm just going to stop and add a little bit of this salt that I see didn't get in here. It was just still in my dish. We're going to add that back in. Here we go. We're going to blend. I'm going to check on this to just make sure it's nice and creamy, because the last thing we would want is lumps of the, cashews. So it looks pretty good, but I'm going to give it one more spin. All right. Now we've got this beautiful, creamy, cheesy flavored sauce. And this is so good. So now I'm going to just show you how we'll plate this up. And, here's another nice thing about this. If you wanted to take your pasta, I'll show you what we've got here. We've got a warm pan full of whole wheat noodles. You can see the steam rising. And I'm going to take a scoop of this and just put it onto a plate. It's kind of all sticking together here because it's been sitting for a minute, but it's still nice and hot. If you wanted to, you could add some frozen or roasted vegetables to this mixture while you were cooking the pasta, or just add it to the dish. It's really nice with this salad that we're making as well, if you want to serve a side salad with it. So again, I'm going to store this extra sauce in the refrigerator, but just to get us started here, I'm going to pour a little bit over, and I like a lot. So there we go. And we've got our mac and cheese. So there we have it. We've got our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Our main dish salad. Of course, you could mix and match any of these. And our delicious overnight oats as well.
Delicious, yummy.
Yeah. And I didn't mention this before, but when we're talking about the advantages of eating plant-based, the more plant foods variety you can fit into your week, the better. Sometimes it's hard to do that every day, but with what we've put together, we have probably, I didn't count them, but maybe 10 vegetables in our salad, or 10 different kinds of plant foods. We've got another cinnamon counts. We've got another 5, 6 with the almond milk in here. And we've got, our onions and and of course our corn and beans, and on top of all those greens. But we've also got all these different vegetables inside here in our pasta sauce, and you could add some more to that. And it is desirable for us to try to have a 30 is a goal for us to try to fit 30 different plant foods per week into our meals. And that may sound like a lot, but when you kind of think through that, any mixture of these is about 10. If you made a pot of soup or chili, you probably have another 8 or 10. So it's not as hard as it sounds when we put together a few combinations like this, but this is very desirable for our microbiome, which helps with everything in our system, our immune response, our ability to fend off depression, our digestion, our energy level, how we sleep. It just affects everything they're finding. So again, the more plant foods we can put into our daily meals, the better.
I agree. And after listening to Dr. Bittner, it helps our hormone balance as well. It helps detoxify the bad estrogen out of our gut. And like you said, we're getting several servings of vegetables, and it looks like we're getting a good amount of fiber as well. Most adults need at least 25 grams of fiber,
Yes.
soluble and insoluble. So with that meal, I believe we're getting that. Excuse me.
That's absolutely right. The more we can get in our meals, the better. And this is a great way and so many of us have trouble finding time to make food at home because we're so busy and tired by the end of the day. And so that is kind of the intention behind a lot of what you're seeing. There's not a lot of cooking involved. I did have to prep the onion. I did saute the onion and I did cook some pasta. But other than that, it's pretty much raw. I mean, it's not a lot of cooked food here. And yet you are, well, I did cook the quinoa yesterday, so I'd have some leftover to show you. And I made some frozen corn, and that was just in the microwave. But in other words, you can use a lot of shortcuts and then assemble food that doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to take a lot of time for it to be delicious and good for us. And this is just full of antioxidants and fiber that helps our digestion and every part of our, how we function throughout the day. This is what our bodies are meant to eat. This is what fuels our system. It's our body knows what to do with this. Our brains require this for energy. This is what makes us feel our best.
Yes, and we have a question. How
Sure.
does the cheese sauce thicken up in the refrigerator? Number one, is it still easy to pour when it's cold, and does it reheat well?
Yes, both of those. Yes, I usually pour this into, as I said, into a jar, and I keep this in the refrigerator. And yes, it thickens just a little bit. You can always dilute it a little with water if you want to. Same as this salad dressing will, because of the nuts and the fat that is in those nuts. And these are the good kind of fats because this is, our system, our brain needs some fat. I haven't added any oil. It's just whole foods that are providing the fat for us. And that's a great question. It will thicken up a little, but not like a solid cheese. It'll still be a nice thick sauce. And you can, again, you can freeze this, as I mentioned, if you want to, and then thaw it, and it thaws beautifully. Real cheese sauce you might have a hard time with because it might separate. I'm not sure. But this freezes really, really well. It's also really good over broccoli or over, potatoes and things like that as well, or over rice or any kind of combination of things like that. But yeah, you can definitely refrigerate it and it warms up really well. I don't usually warm the whole thing up at a time. I usually just warm up what we'll be needing. I had this sauce recently, just a few days ago. My daughter and son-in-law came over for dinner and I had some leftover sauce and I did warm it on the stove. I added just a little bit of water to kind of mix it together because I knew it would get thicker as it warmed up. But usually we just kind of take what we want and warm it up one dish at a time like this.
Cool. There's a question. Will you share how we can take cooking classes with you?
Absolutely. If you go to Ann Arbor Vegan Kitchen.com, which is my website, I do have a page on there for my classes. And so please go to that and just click that, send me a message, and I'll respond to you about setting up a cooking class. Happy to do that. There's also a coaching page there. So for anyone interested in help to just transition to a plant-based diet, or, that maybe you're kind of working through how to do that or considering finding some obstacles, I'm happy to help you work through those obstacles. And so, yeah, you'll find all of that on my website. And also lots and lots of recipes, hundreds and hundreds of recipes.
Also, free recipes on your website. And in the chat, I'm sharing the Everyday Easy ebook with everybody that's on the platform this morning or this afternoon now, excuse me. So that is a private link for you. So check that out, the Everyday Easy ebook. Thank you for sharing that with us. And there is what you will get. It's in your chat right now. So if you're interested while we're on, you can copy and paste, download that, print it out. And I believe we put the recipes you did today. I believe they're in the chat, but we can put those in again. Also, Vicki has shared her private link for the desserts. And while you're on the platform today, you can download that. It's in the chat right now, the Feel Great Dessert ebook. So if you're in the room right now, you can download these lovely cookbooks. This could be a prize at one of your worksite wellness events, or perhaps you can go ahead and do one of these recipes and see what happens. She made it look so easy.
These recipes really are easy. There's just, I think in my cookbook, this was my original cookbook that's also available on my website, the Plant-Based for Life Cookbook. This one has over 100 recipes. My ebooks have over 30, each of them. And this is my plan, is to, if I have a niche, it's making things easy. So yeah, I think you'll find that all of these recipes have easy ingredients, usually not very many ingredients. They're things you can put together really easily, things you can create a large amount, or what we call batch cooking, to have on hand throughout the week. And yeah, I hope that you'll try these recipes and enjoy them. And of course, if you have any questions at any time, always feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you, Vicki. Let's give her a hand. That was great.